Hey, hey, if this is one of those videos where I need a helmet, I do need a helmet. So I'm just gonna go get yeah, I need a helmet. I need a helmet. Don't break the lights. There we go. Is this enough helmet for you? Is this enough helmet for you? Huh? Whew. Let's do it. Hey noble ones, welcome back to my channel. This is the Metatron speaking, and today I would like to go back into medieval Africa, but at the same time discuss medieval Europe. And I want to do that because first, it's very interesting. I mean, how much time at school have you spent studying the sort of, for example, kingdoms that you had specifically in Africa in the medieval period? Because I mean, at the end of the day, when you think about, say, 12th century, if I tell you, imagine Europe, you know what to imagine. I mean, you're imagining the high medieval period, you imagine the castle, imagine the knights, the jousts, the war, crusades, you know what to imagine. But Africa, history is interesting at a global level, and I'm interested specifically in the medieval period. So I want to know, in the 12th century, 10th century, 15th century, what would the world look like? Now, the reason why I said I needed a helmet for this video is because no matter what, even though this is a channel that is mostly based on passion, history, and interest for the truth and documented facts, there are people that whenever you choose a specific topic will bring in toxicity. So, let me define the purpose and aim of this video. This video was mostly inspired, or should we say triggered, by a tweet that I found on Twitter, or should I say X, that was specifically saying that before the arrival of us Europeans, termite mounds were taller than anything sub-Saharan Africans could build from an architectural standpoint. It's clearly an inflammatory tweet, possibly a troll post, and the tweet itself was only focused on South Africa. I'm not interested in that, because the comparison is not apt. 1. Termite mounds in their maximum height are absolutely impressive. 2. They're also taller than the majority of military structures in medieval Europe and ancient Rome. Thus, even if this tweet was true, it would not be the proof of any lack of architectural or building capability of any civilization, just as a matter of deductive logic. But I think this is a great opportunity instead to do something else with this video, which is discuss the sort of architectural techniques, buildings, structures that Africans did build before the 17th century. Now, if you have played any civilization game, then there might be a few of the mentions here that you already know, such as the churches of Lalibela. Let's talk a little bit about the sort of structures that Africans built in Africa in the medieval period. And I don't like selective bias, whether it is one of those everyone was black and here is the proof, and if you don't agree you're racist types. I already battle those quite often on this channel, but also when it comes to other people that for some reasons cannot love or celebrate the wonders and marvels of European history without at the same time trying to look down at other cultures and civilizations and people, whether it be in Asia, whether it be in Africa, what have you. Well, already the way it's written is not correct, because I would have put the W in white capital, just like I would with the B in black. Both capital. It's just me. A sneaky reference to this other video of mine where I discuss the instructions given us by the University of Waterloo in Canada that specifically asked us to lowercase the W in white, but uppercase the B in black. To which I say, make me. Both should be capital is the based take. But yeah, I want to say that the statement is very misleading, maybe some kind of troll, but as I say, we will use it as a basis and then we will very much expand. And I want to show you what sort of structures Africans were capable of building, not only specifically in South Africa and also bordering lands, because I'm going to expand a little bit, I'll tell you why in a second, but in general, all over Africa. So any building or structure that is being built after 1652, not gonna be in this video, but anything before will be. No anti-white, no anti-black, nothing. Just the truth. With that being said, the tallest mounds are actually impressive in their height. So have a little respect for the termites at least. There is nothing to indicate any building skills before European arrived unless you believe mud huts required skills. The mud huts are what was found when Europeans arrived. Okay, let me tell you this, Vincent. You think mud huts don't require skills. One, do you know what one of the building materials is that was used by my fellow Europeans in the medieval period, specifically in rural areas, to build their houses, together with twigs and thatch? Yeah, mud. So I mean, mud huts, you make it. Because I certainly know I can't. You look at this as, oh, these people are so primitive. That's what you're thinking. So basically, by definition, you're also making medieval people and their sort of houses in the rural areas to be primitive, which were anything but. What I see here is human ingenuity. It's how human beings are able to build and construct a haven, shelter from the elements with what they had. Because I respect people of the past. I don't have to disrespect and think, oh, I'm so modern, I'm so advanced, and people that were using mud. Well, you're not able to do it. I'm not able to do it. Give me mud, I'll starve to death in a forest, and I won't even be able to survive the elements. We, as modern people, have an overall understanding of scientific aspects and biology and things that the ancients had no way of knowing, but at the same time, they had skills, foraging skills, survival skills that only a very selective fraction of us has, aka the survivalist type. But I don't have it. So I'm gonna respect this, whether it be Europeans doing it or whether it be Africans doing it. And after having contextualized this, I would like to begin by showing you the structures, specifically in the military context, built by the Kingdom of Zimbabwe in the Middle Ages. Great Zimbabwe. Constructed between the 11th and the 12th centuries, Great Zimbabwe is the largest stone structure in the history of sub-Saharan Africa. In addition to its size, it was also built in a sophisticated and highly complex method, known as dry stone architecture. Dry stone architecture consists of structures built from stones that are quarried in such a way that they are able to be shaped to fit with one another as one does pieces of a puzzle. This technique enables massive structures to be erected without the use of any mortar, as was the norm in most other stone structures throughout history. Great Zimbabwe's dry stone structures were able to remain standing for centuries, relying only on the shape and weight of the overlaid stones as opposed to binding substances like mud, plaster or mortar, which crack and weather away with time. Important of note is the fact that the site is located hundreds of miles deep inland in a region inhabited by Bantu people, particularly the Shona. Numerous archaeologists spanning several decades continuously uncovered countless pieces of indigenous African art and artifacts in every layer of the archaeological record, as well as a number of foreign objects indicative of a kingdom with a complex international economy that reached as far away as Ming Dynasty, China. Structures like this were endemic to a large region spanning as far as Zimbabwe, Mozambique, and South Africa. To the present day, hundreds of these structures spiderweb throughout the countryside of Southern Africa, including complex networks of ancient agricultural terraces, irrigation aqueducts, cattle kraals, and urban landscapes following a highly complex fractal layout. Unfortunately, only a small fraction of these structures have had any archaeological work or preservation efforts made. Sungbo's Eredo and the Great Walls of Benin. Similar to Western Europe, West Africa has an extensive history of ramparts and moats. The only difference is that those in West Africa were typically constructed from clay and earth as opposed to those in Europe, which were usually made of wood and stone. The largest examples of these are Sungbo's Eredo and the Walls of Benin. The Walls of Benin were created over a period of several centuries by the Edo people of Nigeria between the 8th century and the 15th century, and encompassed large swaths of the Benin Kingdom and the royal palace complex. These walls were described by the Book of Guinness World Records as the largest earthen structure ever created by man prior to the mechanical era. Sungbo's Eredo was constructed by the Yoruba people between the years 800 AD and 1000 AD, and though not stretching as far as the Walls of Benin, they extended a distance of about 100 miles and reached up to 66 feet in height and surrounded the Yebu kingdom with a deep moat full of trees and other heavy vegetation. The size and length of these walls, as well as the complex mixture used to construct them, was a testament to their engineering expertise, as earthen architecture is susceptible to deterioration from rains, as well as mud is. Sungbo's Eredo being located in the rainforest region of Nigeria, large parts of it still stand to the present day, and in some parts retain smooth, pristine walls of immense height. As an honorable mention, I would like to talk about Bamum and Bamileke architecture, primarily composed of wood, thatch and other vegetal material, but monumental and beautiful nonetheless. Let me know if you would like me to talk more in details about this on a dedicated video. Lalibela. The churches of Lalibela are a collection of 11 monumental structures built in Ethiopia between the 12th and the 13th century. They were commissioned by an emperor of the same name from the Zagwe Dynasty who reigned between the years of 1181 and 1221. Now, these massive architectural structures are unique in their constructions as they are not built from the ground up from quarried stone, as you would expect. Instead, they are carved out of one solid slab of bedrock. In other words, they were not built brick by brick or board by board. They were painstakingly chiseled from the underlying bedrock, methodically being shaped with precision and accuracy by hand, in an era long before power tools, of course, existed. Now, during the Crusades, Ethiopia became increasingly isolated from the rest of the Christian world due to the spread of Islam, and Jerusalem also lay firmly in the hands of Islamic powers. In response to this, Emperor Lalibela commissioned the construction of these churches in an effort to provide an alternative holy site for Christians akin to Jerusalem, which had been fallen into the hands of Muslim powers. The traditional name of this site from Ethiopian sources calls it Warwar or Dabra Roha. Unfortunately, traditional Ethiopian sources don't provide much historical information about the origins, as they attribute them to divine creation, likely as a way of garnering legitimacy. Look at this comment. While I understand the point you're trying to make, I fear you are overselling things a bit. The best you can say of pre-contact African architecture was the pinnacle of its achievement was a 36-foot high stone wall with no mortar, 36 feet of height for a defensive wall structure with battlements. It's exactly within the norm of the high end of medieval European stone walls. In fact, usually vary between 30 to 40 feet high. If you think that this isn't impressive, then you don't think that the majority of medieval fortresses are not impressive either, particularly city walls. It's just that in this situation, when he sees 36 feet high, he's thinking, that's not that impressive because these are African specifically. Now, I would like to try and prove to you how sometimes information given may skew or alter our reactions, or should we say gut reactions, to specific structural and architectural patterns. Have you ever heard the word oppidum? The oppida were a specific type of defensive structure that was common in Gaul and created by Celtic people. The way these oppida were built, as they are described by the Romans, was very impressive, and it showed an incredible architectural and organizational skill that Celtic populations had in Gaul when creating defensive structures. Now, if you liked this oppidum that I just showed you, well, I was a little tricky. This is an oppidum made by the Gauls. The picture that I showed before, no, that's African. Yeah, very similar, aren't they? But I know for a fact that the person who's writing this comment that we are reading would very much appreciate the Celtic oppida, but he would consider the African defensive battlements to be primitive and unimpressive. I say, clear your mind and then pass judgment. Also, a lot of the castra were not even close to this height when it comes to the Romans. Some winter fortresses, it's a little different, but not all will reach this height once again. Because at the end of the day, the ancient Romans were engineering masters. And one of the things that they did was make sure that the walls were effective. And, you need to be able to shoot people down there. You need to be able to see. There are a lot of reasons why this has become sort of average height when it comes to fortifications in China, in Japan, and again, all over Europe, because it's the most functional. Between 30 to 40 is absolutely plenty to make sure that people can't reach the top of the walls easily. And then, of course, thickness will vary when you have to deal with artillery, but this is not what we are talking about right now. Yeah, I mean, it's pretty impressive. And if anything, it speaks to me because it makes me realize, look, whether it be Asia, whether it be Europe, whether it be Africa, human beings are recognizing that, yeah, this is a good height, and so that's where we're going to stop. Also, the lack of mortar means absolutely nothing, because if you think that the lack of mortar makes it, oh, that's just silly, it's nothing, then you wouldn't appreciate all sorts of medieval Japanese castles, because all of those walls are made without mortar all the way up to the freaking 16th century, never mind the medieval kingdom of Zimbabwe. And yet, I think those castles are absolutely impressive. The walls, the stone walls, and how they were put together by pressure and correct selection of stones makes it very impressive. The lack of mortar does not mean, oh, then this is just a primitive nonsense. It may be a specific choice, and even if it's not a choice, walls without mortar still work. Mortar is great. I think mortar was a fantastic invention, but let's continue. I want to show you a few other examples of selective bias, because I think on this channel I've shown several times the sort of selective bias that you get from those individuals that are pushing a sort of oftentimes anti-European agenda when they want to say, oh, the Romans were black, the Greeks were black, and this and that, and okay, we have already counteracted those very much, but I want to show you another type of selective bias, because at the end of the day, all selective bias is problematic. Here is one that I blocked, so I just unblocked so I can block him again, because this guy was a as toxic as it gets. But he's saying you're responding to a troll post, lame. But even if it was, people are believing it. So yeah, I'm responding, not lame. In fact, you getting mad about it is lame. But your post is kind of worse, he says. It is inarguable that sub-Saharan Africa lagged behind in develop all other regions on the globe, not just EU. Did they lag behind Europe in the medieval period? Yes, but no one is saying otherwise. But all other regions on the globe, and it's inarguable? As I say, this is absolutely a strawman because that's not what I'm saying. And I kind of want to make it very clear here because I know that otherwise those comments will appear. So let me make it clear. This is not a video about the top 10 most impressive stone structures in the world, because if I were to make a video like that, then 10 out of 10 would be European. If someone gets mad for whatever reason and they're not interested in African history and they're like, oh, so are you telling me that this structure in Africa you presented is as good as the cathedral in Milan? No, no one is saying that. Yes, I think that the splendor of whatever other castle that you like in Europe, you go and find, or this specific cathedral, yeah, they're more impressive. But that is not the topic of this video. So, am I allowed to respond to a specific statement and at the same time present for educational purposes the type of structures that were built in Africa by Africans, considering the fact that oftentimes, unfortunately, these are not shown to the world? And also considering the sort of comments that we have read. Alright, noble ones. Well, I hope that you enjoyed this video. If you did, please remember thumbs up. And if you're not yet a member of this community, become a noble one. Subscribe to my channel for more content from the Metatron. And if you like these kind of topics, of course, let me know in the comments below and I will make more. Thank you very much for watching, and remember, the Metatron has spread his wings. Goodbye.